vessels of God in the kingdom. Now this morning we're starting a 3-week series. So for the next 3 Sundays, we're going to do part 1. So the next Sunday I do part 2. For the next 3 Sundays, I'm taking you on a series. And if you've noticed in the last few months, you realize that a lot of organizations seem to have been doing the same to just help to position people, because we are at a very, very critical stage in our nation right now. And as the church and as leaders over the destiny of millions, it's our responsibility to help people gain understanding and gain perspective, especially when it comes to making major decisions and destiny decisions about their life. So we're going to be looking at this amazing series, Before You Join the JAPA Bandwagon. And it's going to take us for the next 3 weeks. So the word JAPA has become more like a part of our vocabulary, especially in the last 2 years. And it's more or less like the dream of a lot of people. So let me start with what exactly is this JAPA? What does JAPA mean? The word JAPA is actually a Yoruba word. It's a Yoruba word that means to run, to exit, to leave a place. So when someone leaves a place, it's like you are living hurriedly, or you are living, it's like escaping. It's like you are leaving a place, not that you left it, but it's like you are living it hurriedly, or you are living as a way of escape. That means, he quickly escaped, or he quickly hurriedly left the place. And what we are seeing happening in our nation today is more or less like what's happening. It's called JAPA. So it has become a part of the vocabulary. And the reason why I want to spend extensive time to deal with this is so that we can look at it holistically and really look at different perspectives. Because if we don't spend time to look at it holistically and gain different perspectives, many people may not be able to understand how to navigate this season, because it's not new. This is not new. And if we are to do what I call the history of JAPA, you'll find out that it's not new. When you look at the Bible, people JAPA'd in the Bible. People left one place to try to go to another place. So it's been there. Now, the world that you and I live in today is no doubt a completely different world than the world that we're used to. Because with COVID, a lot of things just changed. Because when COVID came, it changed the entire dynamics of a lot of things. Many people suddenly realize that things can change within a short period or a short window. Now, when you study the way things are going in the world and in the marketplace, you realize that there is a concept that has become a part of the world. And one of the concepts that have become a part of the world is what we call VUCA, V-U-C-A. V-U-C-A. It is said that the world has become a VUCA world. We live in a VUCA world. Now, the word VUCA, V-U-C-A, is an acronym for volatile. So it means that the world is a very volatile world. The word U there is uncertain. We live in an uncertain world. There's so much uncertainties in the world. You are never too sure. The C there is talking about complex. That means the world has become so complex. And then the A there talks about ambiguous or ambiguity. So it means that we live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And the coming of COVID, the lockdown, and all the things that came as a result of that has come to validate that. And when we look at what's happening in our nation and in many nations of the world, you find out that a lot of people now, JAPA has become more like what they want to begin to explore because of many, many reasons. Now, for many, many decades, many people have left Nigeria to go to other countries. Many people have left other countries to come to Nigeria. many people have moved from one nation to another. But for us as a nation, you find out that our brain drain has become the brain gain of many nations, because you find out that some of the best brains and some of the best minds in our nation exit our nation to go into other nations, and then all the other nations begin to benefit from all these wonderful, wonderful brains that we have. Now, let me help us understand this. When you begin to study what we call assets and values of nation, you find out that when you look at the assets and values of nation, there are few indices or index that is used to calculate or to value the wealth and the value of a nation. One of them is human capital. Human capital. The next is natural resources. The next is production and production capacity. And then you have foreign reserves. So number one is what? Human capital. So when you are really looking at how valuable or how strong a nation is, you look at their human capital. How developed is the mind and the humans of that nation? And that's really the wealth of any nation. Now the next thing is, what are the natural resources that they have? How rich are they in natural resources? And the ability to harness that natural resource in order to be able to come into a place of production. The next is, how productive is that nation? Because you hear things like third world nation, and God didn't create more than one world. So nations are not rated as a result of their creation. They are rated as a result of their production. So when you are a productive nation, you are in the first world. When you are a consumer nation, you are said to be in the third world. Why? Because you are more of a consumer than a producer. And then the world also wants to know your value as a result of your foreign reserves. So if you are a nation and you have resources, then one of the proofs that you have resources is that resource is shown. You have reserves, in foreign reserve, that can show that, okay, this country, they have these, and with this, we are sure that they are good to go. Because if these things are not in place, then it shows that you are not as strong and as valuable as you are supposed to be. So if we understand then that human capital is one of the major assets, as a matter of fact, the number one asset of any nation. Go do your research. The number one asset of any nation is their human reserve. Their human capital. If that therefore is the truth, it means that every time quality people, every time professionals, every time educated people, every time skilled people leave a particular geography to another geography, wealth has left. Hello? Now let me help you understand it from Bible so that I will help your religious mind. When the children of Israel left Egypt, did they carry Egypt with them? No. But when they left, the Bible says Egypt fell. Now, why will Egypt fall? Because some people left. Because when they left, wealth left. Because they were the wealth. Do you understand? So it's not about what you have. You can have crude oil and still be poor like Nigeria. Do you understand now? You can have all the natural resource and not be able to produce. So the real wealth of any nation is the human capital. So whenever we have this brain drain, we are actually depleting our wealth, and the depletion of our wealth is now becoming the benefit of many other nations. I'm taking time to explain this because this issue is very critical. It's a destiny decision, and you need to have clarity. So that's why I'm not rushing. I want to take us step by step so that we'll get this clarity, and then you get the tape, you listen to it over and over again, because I know the importance of this decision in the life of people, and I also know the danger of this decision. Now, when we talk about people leaving, you need to understand that we can be strategic as a nation and use JAPA to our advantage as a nation, if we understand how to harness it. So I give you an example. Many times we talk about nations like India, we talk about nations like China, we talk about Singapore, we talk about a lot of nations that have been able to take themselves out of a place of poverty and bring themselves into the forefront of development and wealth. So let's take Singapore, for example. Many of us have heard the story of from the third world to the first world, and we know of the man that was used as a pioneer or the father of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. He wrote a book. But if you study the concept of Singapore, you will realize that JAPA was the secret of Singapore. Now, the secret of Singapore was, we are a third world nation, but we don't want to remain a third world nation anymore. So what is it that these other nations have that we don't have? What is it that they know that we don't know? So they gathered all the young citizens of the nation and they shared a vision with us. Say, you know what, guys? We want you to go to all the best universities in the world. The government will sponsor you. Any school you want to go to, free scholarship for everybody. But we are sending you as ambassadors of Singapore. We are sending you as missionaries of Singapore. Go. And when you are going, go as a missionary. Learn everything you need to learn and return so that we can change Singapore. And guess what? They left, they learned, they returned, and they changed Singapore. Now listen, there are some things I will say that you may not agree with, but please do your research and you will find them to be true. When you travel outside this country and you go to many nations of the earth, you will see Nigerians everywhere. But it's not only Nigerians you will see. You will see Chinese. You will see Indians. You will see a lot of people from many other nations. But when you sit down with them one-on-one to begin to discuss their plan, one thing you will hear from others that you will not hear from Nigeria is, oh, once I'm through, I'm going back home. Once I'm through, I'm going back home. I need to go back home. I'm going to do this. They all JAPA with a purpose. Why? Because when you JAPA without nationalism, when you JAPA without patriotism, you become a fugitive in a strange land. But when you JAPA with nationalism and patriotism, even if you are in a strange land, you don't forget where you come from. And that can now become an asset to the nation. I hope you know that there are many nations today whose governments have programs. And the programs of the government is to bring in as many people as they can from all over. Why? Not because they love those people, but because they want them to come and help them in the area where they have a deficiency. Hello, somebody. Now let's go deeper. So when we understand this JAPA and our leaders know how to harness all these, realities of our time, we can actually use it to our advantage. When you study Nigeria, you'll find out that one of the major, and I mean major, you can go do your research yourself, one of the major source of foreign reserve and foreign income in our nation is diaspora remittance. I'm telling you, even more than many of the supposed assets that you think you have as a nation. We have so much money sent in from diaspora. So much money, and I'm talking billions of dollars, that are coming from diaspora as diaspora remittance, because those that have JAPA'd, even though they don't have a nationalist, let me not say that, even though some of them don't have a nationalist view and they are not going there with patriotism, they have a family view. My family must not suffer. So while they are there, money is coming every month. Help me build a house. Money is coming every month. Pay for this one school fees, this one. So you find that money is coming. But are we strategic about that? Are we strategic about making sure that if they have to go and they go, what do we benefit from their going? Look at what's happening with our doctors and our nurses and our teachers right now. I can tell you for free. One of the places where you can have the cheapest medical and cheapest legal education in the world is Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the places where you can have the best education at the cheapest price. Forget all this ASU nonsense. I'm telling you, when you go to a good school in Nigeria and you study, it's cheaper than anywhere. Listen and listen well. Our educational sector is subsidized, highly subsidized. The money that the government spends in training many people to become doctors and lawyers and become engineers in this country, if they were to charge you the real school fees, many of you will not be able to go to school. Which is why one of the things we need to ask ourselves is, can we continue the way we are? Because for many people in the Western world, after they have gone to school, there is student loan on their head that 20, 30 years after they have finished school, they are still paying back. Because many times we look at Nigeria as if everything is so bad, and you don't seem to understand the benefits you have, because the people that are leading us don't even understand. Because many of them don't have any political vision. They just stumble into the position without any clear vision of what to do. So they are confused themselves. And that's why we think that everything about Nigeria is bad until you go. Let me tell you something. If you know anybody that has spent 10 years and above out there, they are tired. They are looking for a way to come back. Many of them want to come back home because they have come to realize that there is no place like home. But the home is not safe. The home is not secure. The home is not, there is no hope for them. And they are asking themselves, it's better for me to continue to do what I'm doing than to come back into trouble. So we can get money through diaspora remittance, foreign direct investment, getting unique expertise and unique skills for our people to go learn and return so that we can all develop our nation. Many of the things that has happened in our nation that has caused the challenges we see today are still there, and they have been there, and they are not getting better. Leadership ineptitude. We seem to have one bad leader after the other. One bad leader after the other. And it keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. And many times you ask yourself, because for instance, I was in a TEDx event. I spoke at the TEDx event yesterday, and the young people, teenagers, were asking questions, and the issue of JAPA. I said, look, this thing is not new. In the 80s, people JAPA, you remember Andrew? People JAPA in the 80s now. Fortunately or unfortunately, the same president then is the same president now. So people jackpot then. So it's as if the president came and returned the jackpot spirit. And then everybody's, people jackpot. And people jackpot in the 50s and in the 60s. Many of the people you know today that say, okay, I was born in London, I was born in America, it's because their parents jackpot in the 50s and in the 60s. Why? Because before independence, because many of you don't realize, because you are talking jackpot, all the Awolowo you are talking about that you call nationalists, they were in London. All the Awolowo, Azikiwe, Tafawa, they were all abroad. They were all jackpot because the colonial masters was in charge, and they told them, if you want to be the best, you need to come and learn. So they were all going to school in London. Many of them schooled abroad, gave birth to children abroad, who now became the one that gave birth to the ones. So he's been there. And then they started fighting. You mean this place is good like this, and you kept us in bondage? No, release us to build our own. So they came back with a nationalistic vision. And many of us have forgotten. All the Awolowo you are shouting, Awolowo, Tavabalewa, Azikwe, how old do you think they were when they were fighting for a new Nigeria? They were in their 20s. They were not old people. They were in their 20s, and they fought for independence in their 20s, in their early 30s. So the young people right now, in your 19, in your 20s, you are the one that needs to begin to really fight for a new Nigeria to emerge. Because some of us are on our way out. Count another 50 years, many of the people there will not be there anymore. So the question is, what's going to happen to your own future? Because 200 million people cannot jackpot. I hope you know. And guess what? We are more than 200 million. So, leadership ineptitude, continual negative spiral and trend, everything just keeps getting worse. The more you think it's going to be getting better, the more, all manner. And I'm really praying and hoping that we will not get into that trouble again as we enter into 2023. Because I've shared with you over and over again on the danger of situational hope. When you hinge all your hope on one situation, and the situation doesn't work, then you become hopeless and you become depressed and you end up in suicide. Because the way people are shouting obedience now, I'm wondering, as if one man is the one that will come and solve your problem. You are entering the trap again. I've told you over and over and over again, APC is not the answer, PDP is not the answer. Since there is a third one now, Labour is not the answer. They are not the answer. Hello? Because all of them, including obedience, was it not in PDP as the assistant of Atiku? They are all moving around. Everybody's just looking for where they can be able to position themselves. So don't base all your hope on one man and now think that one man will be the Messiah of Nigeria, because that's what you did in 2015, and now you entered 8 years trap. I hope we will not enter another 8 years. And many of the people that are shouting and shouting, I hope you have your PVC and you are going to come out to vote, because you know that INEC does not count Instagram like. And none of you that are praying for a new Nigeria, I hope you also know that INEC does not count prayer points. the seeming hopeless future, many deficiencies in our nation, all kinds of stuff have led to what we have seen today. Now, I've said it over and over again that the world has become a global village and the internet is the village square. It therefore means that every one of us, we are actually global citizens. And you can stay local and play global when you have a global mindset and you have a global strategy. Now, I'm an unrepentant believer in the Project Nigeria. So I will always, and I mean always, encourage people to play their part in ensuring that the new Nigeria becomes a reality. Why? Foreigners will not develop our nation for us. And I've said it over and over again, if you are not part of the solution, you are indirectly part of the problem. But I'm also a realist that understands that everybody is not born to stay in one place forever. I understand that very clearly. My only concern is to be sure that you are in the center of the will of God, and when you are led to do that, you do it right. So I know that a lot of people will leave Nigeria or live where they are, but let me focus on Nigeria since that's my plan. For many reasons. Number one, some leave Nigeria for educational purposes. So a lot of people, the reason why they are leaving is not because they don't love Nigeria. It's not because they are not patriotic. It's not because they are not nationalistic. It's just because they want a better education, and the better education they want is not existing where they are. ASU has been on strike now for months. There is no end in sight. So what happens? So if you don't have money to put your children in a private school, we are all going to be stranded, just like we are right now. And this is not the first ASU strike. It's been on and on and on like that. And many times we think, because the TEDx event I went for was done inside Lagos, inside Unilag yesterday. And when we got in there, I was telling my peers, I said, wow, ghost town, Unilag, lo dabai. And guess what? It's not only the people that are doing their first degree that are affected. There are people doing masters. There are people doing PhD. So everybody is affected. So you plan your life to say, okay, I'll go to school. In 4 years, I should be through. But you can't do that in Nigeria. You can't plan that, say, in 5 years, I'll be through. Except you're in a private school. So a lot of people live for educational reasons. And there's nothing wrong in that, because there are even courses that you want to study that you can't study in Nigeria if you want to make it. So there's nothing wrong. Guess what? People used to come to Nigeria to study. Ghanaians, Cameroonians, Nigeria, people come from all over to come and study in Nigeria. People used to come to Nigeria to UCH to come and give birth to children. They used to come to Nigeria to have medical, but that Nigeria has gone. That's why we are asking for a new Nigeria to emerge. Because things have just gone down, 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 down. Because we started having a group of people come into leadership, come into a position of authority without a clear vision and a clear direction, without capacity, without character, without competence. And then things started going down. Number two, some leave for marital and family reasons. So people get married, they need to leave to go meet their spouses. They get married to someone, the person they are married to is from another country. People marry foreigners that come into Nigeria too, so it can be for family purpose. Number three, some live for career development and career opportunities. Because let me tell you something, when Maslow was doing his research, the reason for Maslow's research was just, he wanted to find out why do people behave the way they behave. That's all Maslow was trying to do. He was trying to find out why people behave the way they behave. And in trying to do that, he suddenly realized that the behavior of people is based on classification, because he realized that many people were at the survival level of life, and he found that when people are at the survival level of life, they are not different from animals. Because what really moves them is what they will eat, what they will drink. And when people are hungry, many of the highfalutin ideals that you are sharing doesn't make sense to them, because they are survival level. And then he now began to talk about the basic needs of man. But he now began to say that when people have left the realm of basic need, they begin to have aspirations. So there are aspirational needs of people, not because they don't. It's just like, look, I can be better than this, but this environment is not helping me to be the best version of myself. This environment is stifling. This environment is not enhancing my possibility. I can do better because I've been created to maximize destiny. And this environment is not helping me. So some people live to just go develop their career, to maximize opportunities to be better in their career. And that gives them the better opportunity to do what they want to do to change their world. Because not everybody will be able to have all that they need to develop their career in one location. For some live for security reasons. We know of all kinds of wars, all kinds of so you have a lot of people that have gone to different countries because Their life was threatened. Their life, a lot of people have left as political fugitives. A lot of people have left as victims of war. All kinds of reasons. Next, some live as missionaries. There are people that are called of God to go on a mission. Either they go on a spiritual mission or they go on a national mission, like I explained when I spoke about Singapore earlier on. And some live to fulfill the purpose of God for their life, because it is not the will of God for everybody to be in the same place forever. There are people that God has called, ordained to be in Nigeria for a season of their life, so that Nigeria can do what Nigeria can do in them, and then at the next chapter of their life, He moves them on a divine purpose to other nations to go do other things. And sometimes He might move them back, sometimes He might never move them back, because God ultimately is the one that rules and reigns in our lives. So the real issue is really not about whether you should JAPA or not. The real issue is, if you are going to JAPA, are you doing it as someone that is at the center of the will of God? Because if God wants you to go, that's not a problem. Just be sure He wants you to go. But even if God wants you to go, you still need to have some basic understanding of things that will help you to be able to succeed in that process. Like I've always said, if you are meant to be in Maryland, in Ikeja, and you are in Maryland, USA, you are in error. Hello? And if you are meant to be in Oregon, USA, and you are in Oregon, in Ikeja, you are also in error. A lizard in Nigeria cannot become a crocodile in Canada. So if you leave Nigeria as a failure, you leave Nigeria as a visionless, lazy, purposeless, unserious person, you won't suddenly become serious because you got to Canada. The same nature you have is the same nature that you exhibit. But at the same time, if you are in London and you are a very powerful failure, you won't suddenly come to Nigeria and become a giant just because you relocated to a third world nation. It won't happen. Because many times when we talk about this JAPA stuff, we seem to forget that there are people born in America and they are the poorest and the most useless people in their life. But they were born in America. The Canada you are planning to go to, people were born in the Canada and their life is out of order. They are on drugs, they are visionless, they are uneducated, they are homeless in America that you are going to. So, and they were born there. So it's not about whether they will. So it's because I'm born in Nigeria. No, there are people born in America that are failures. There are people, we see homeless people are everywhere. Hello? So it's not about where you are born, it's about being where God wants you to be. So, before you join the JAPA bandwagon, very, very important for you to know a few things. So, in closing for today, let me share 2 destiny facts with you, and then we'll now look at some things from next week Sunday. 2 destiny facts that I want to share with you. Number 1, you are a global citizen by creation. And I need to spend time on these 2 facts, and I close. You are a global citizen by creation. Please note this. Genesis chapter 1, from verse 26, God said, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over different territories." And God created the male and the female. Listen, when God created you and I, according to the creative agenda of God, nobody that is created by God is supposed to be limited to a location. It is not God's agenda. According to the plan of God, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. And if you are a child of God, you should have access to the earth. So there is nothing like visa in the agenda of God. Hello? Once you are a child of God, once you are a creation of God, God created you, but He's also the one that created the world. And when He created the world, He never created the world to shut you out of any portion of it. His plan is that as He's creating the world and creating you, the world is available to you. So you are free. The same way, now listen, the same way you are free to relocate from Lagos to Abeokuta, or Lagos to Osogbo, or Lagos to Kaduna as a Nigerian citizen to move around. That's the same way you are free to move from any country to any country as a global citizen. That is the agenda of God. Now let me start from Nigeria. I hope you know that even though you are free constitutionally as a Nigerian to live in any part of Nigeria, if you relocate from Lagos to the east as a Yoruba man, you will most likely not be able to buy a plot of land. in some places. You will most likely not be able to do a lot of this. Say, Yoruba man for Igbo land. If you move from Lagos as a Yoruba man and you go to the north, you will most likely not be able to buy land. You will most likely not be able to get a sale for you. Why? Even though it is constitutional, there are still going to be restrictions. Not because God put the restriction, not because the constitution put the restriction, but because human being put the restrictions. Hello? Now, leaning from that, that's the same thing that happened in the world. We didn't need visa to go to London before now. Hello? You just move and enter London. Just enter plane. Nigerian Airways, 300 naira ticket, and just face London. We didn't need ticket to go to Canada. We didn't need ticket. Listen, we didn't need ticket to go to... Now, the Queen, do you know that the Queen is in charge of what we call the Commonwealth nation, including Australia, including Canada? Guess what? Nigerians did not need visa to go to Canada. Nigerians did not need visa to go to Australia. Nigeria did not need visa to... All the Commonwealth nation, Nigeria did not need visa to go to any of them until apartheid. And we decided that we're going to fight on behalf of South Africa and support South Africa. And when we chose to support South Africa in apartheid, the people there say, hey, you want to support South Africa? So they started putting restrictions. Nigeria was removed, even though we were part of the Commonwealth, we were removed from that freedom to support South Africa that is now disgracing us and killing our people. Because many of you need to study history. So there is nothing like visa in there. So you are supposed to have freedom to go anywhere you want to go. But not to go there and then leave and relocate from your destiny. So when you understand that you are a global citizen, let me now help you get this. I am not against you doing anything you can do to remove the restrictions from your life. Because any restriction from the fulfillment of the liberty of God is a bondage. So whatever you can do to remove restrictions so that you can have freedom to move, do it. There's nothing wrong in that. But that does not mean you should move. As I'm standing before you right now, I have 3 children. They are all American citizens with American passports. My first daughter was born in 1998. She's an American citizen. My first son was born in year 2000. He's an American citizen. My last born was born 2013. He's an American citizen. So all my children are American citizens. They have American passports. Why? Because we are supposed to be global citizens and there should be no restriction. Because I understand that you should be a global. Nothing should restrict you to say you want to be, you need visa. Everybody is not running away. But when you get to a place where you need to do something to fulfill destiny and somebody is telling you, sorry, you need to do this to go this, you are like, hello, what's that? So removing that restriction is not a problem, but relocating and leaving a place of destiny is a problem. I hope you get that now. So many times, a lot of people also, they think, no, my children are American citizens, but I'm not going anywhere. Because I know my destiny is here. Do you understand that? I know that. But will I allow anybody to limit me to Nigeria? No. I will do everything I can to make sure I can move anywhere to do what I need to do. But it doesn't mean I will leave Nigeria. So many of you don't understand the difference. You are a global citizen. Yes, do whatever you can do to make sure there is no restriction. If you need a second passport, you need a second citizenship, you need to make sure that's not a problem. But it doesn't mean you should move out of the place of destiny. Do you understand that? Number 2. You are created to be the best within a destiny location. Apples don't grow in every soil. Apples don't grow in every soil. So even though you are a global citizen and you should do what you can to remove restrictions, please note this. There is a place of planting. I shared that with you January. There is a place of planting where God plants you and you can only flourish best where you are planted. So when you allow yourself to get into this, survivor mentality of, oh, things are bad, I want to live so that I will have a better life. And that's the reason why you are going economic migration. Oh, that can be a great error. It can be a great error because everything you are complaining about Nigeria exists everywhere you are going to. Exists everywhere. But when you are blinded by the problem of your location, you don't see the opportunity in your location. Until you move to a new location because you saw the opportunity in the new location and then you now see the problem that you didn't see before. It's like a man that said the wife is a bad wife. And then the side chick is the good one because he's a side cock that has a side chick. So now, because the wife is living with him, so he can see all the good, the bad, and the ugly of the wife. but the side chick only sees him once in a while. So if you see the side chick once a week, she comes with her best behavior. So every time you see the side chick, best behavior, best dress, best voice, best honor, best respect, best everything, best food, best sex, everything best. She brings it once a week. Once a week is 52 times a year. So by deception of adultery and infidelity, that stupid man now thinks that, I made a mistake to marry my wife. You are too much. My wife is a nagging woman. My wife snores. My wife doesn't dress well. My wife doesn't clean. Forgetting that the woman you are talking to is a side chick that you only see 2 hours a week. You now replace the woman of destiny and go and carry the 2-hour side chick. By the time you now bring the 2-hour side chick into the house, and 2 of you are now living together, you now discover that you used to see her once a week, which is 52 times a year. You now realize that 52 times a year is 52 days. And 52 days is 6 weeks. So within 6 weeks of having her in the house, you will now discover that in 6 weeks, you have argued 10 times. You say, you are not who I thought you are. No, because now she has come. And all the other things you didn't see, now you are seeing. So that is what's happening to many people. We are thinking Nigeria is bad. Until you now go to the other side and discover that they are shooting people every day. People are dying. And then you now have to be buying bulletproof uniform for your children to go to school and bulletproof hamper. And you now discover that it's not like that. You are leaving Nigeria to a place where go cash you. You go drink tea, no go walk. You go wear suit, you no go walk. You are moving to a place where you can't quickly call the question. You now suddenly realize that it's not like that. To JAPA or not to JAPA is your personal life. It's between you and God. The only thing I can do as your pastor and as your father is to guide you so that if you do choose to make the decision, you know all the implications of the decision and you do it right. So next week, we're going to part 2. And then I'll begin to show you 5 major things you need to consider before you JAPA. And then we'll see how the Lord will help us. Thank you.